So this morning, one of the new videos I ended up watching from those that I subscribed to is from Metal Jesus Rocks, where he ranked basically the best to worst or worst to best retro, clone consoles that he has. And it got me thinking, perhaps I could do one of my own. And I'm going to do that right here to kind of let you, give you an idea, I should say, on what I kind of look at as some of the best that I have. From, not worst, but kind of like okay to, most definitely, kind of let you see what I have, I should say, like going like from what I use the less to what I use the most at times. So I want to start off by showing you this though, to start off, and I'm sorry if the footage is a little bit dark. I'm filming it from, of course, one of my dresser drawers, my storage area for one of my dresser drawers right here where the camera sits on top. These are basically, as you're going to see them, the Atari Flashback systems that were released by AtGames. Now, AtGames, of course, did both of these. One of them, the first one you'll probably be seeing, is the 7800. And it's a good little system. The controller works, the games are great. It's a cool little system to have on the go. The only problem is it's audio video out. So unless you have a special connector, which, believe it or not, I do have, you won't be able to play this in HD. Now, the connector that I'm talking about basically is really interesting, and if you have it, you'll be able to play a lot of the things in HD because it will convert it. It's an AV to HDMI converter, and it works really good. The only thing is you have to have it plugged in via USB, and you have to have either an AC adapter or you have to have basically a USB plug to put it into. And if you have a surge protector that enables that, then you're good to go. If you have if you have a USB plug in the back of your television or even your monitor, you're good to go as well. So yeah, that's basically what you would be able to utilize if you wanted to play this AtGames 7800 flashback system on your modern TV. The same goes with the one that they followed up on, basically the one people have been wanting, and that was the 2600 flashback. And pretty much it's the same thing. It works good, the games are great. And what's interesting about both of them is they both come with controllers identical to the original controllers that were released back with the original systems. As a matter of fact, with the 2600 here, the controller that you get with it basically is a replica of an original Atari controller. In fact, people have reported that you could actually play, original Atari consoles with this controller. You can utilize this controller on original Atari consoles, which does beg the question, will you be able to play it on the Retron 77? That's a good question. Now, moving on though, from these Atari flashback systems, let's talk about something that's really interesting. I've talked about these before, and that is the level hike accessories, the HDMI mods for the connectors to your systems. The first one up, of course, is the Super Famicom, Super Nintendo one. And mainly, like I said, what these are is just modded, updated versions of the connectors for your retro systems. Basically, just like originally, when you would put these or plug these into your television, you'd be able to do so, I should say, through AV output or composite or S-video. In this case, Level Hike has developed it to where you can now, instead of utilizing RF connections, or even if you're fortunate enough to have it, basically the audio-video connection, you're able to now utilize the same connectivity as the original audio-video connection, but with an HDMI modification, if you will. And all you need basically is an HDMI cable, and you have to have a USB plug. Basically, it looks like it could be USB-C or something like that. My suggestion is to make sure you keep the USB plug that you get with the Level Hike accessory or HDMI mod that you get for your system. But it does work. I tested this out when I first got it, and it does work. It works terrifically. So now all you have to do, instead of going out and getting a retro console, is just get one of these Level Hike devices for your Super Nintendo and plug it in, and you'll be able to play the original cartridges in high definition, of course in 720p at the highest, or 4K depending on how you do it. And it does give you the option basically of going from 4:3 to 16:9 as you see in this video. Now the next one, the next one I want to talk about is the PlayStation 2. Just like with the Super Nintendo, its connector basically was modified from its original audio video output to high definition. The only other way people were able to do this, as I mentioned earlier, with the flashbacks, is they had an AV to HDMI converter. But in this case, Level Hike has taken care of that, and they basically modified the original PS2 connectors with HDMI output. So all you need basically is an HDMI cable, but just like I said with the Super Nintendo one, you have to basically make sure you keep that USB cable along with you, because if you lose it, you're pretty much out of luck. And again, just like with the Super Nintendo, it does give you the ability to switch from 4:3 to 16:9. Now, last but not least is the TurboGrafx 16. And this is an interesting setup, because instead of depending on RF video, just like this original setup was, they've decided to modify the way you're able to do output with this. Now, of course, Hudson Soft originally had other ways of doing, getting video and sound out besides RF video, and basically that's what Level Hike modded it after. They basically allow you to take the back off your TurboGrafx, and what you're able to do essentially is you're able to connect the back of this unit, or back of this accessory, to the back of the TurboGrafx 16, just like you would do the Turbo CD accessory or add-on, and then you just connect your HDMI cable and you're good to go. This also kind of lets you know, in case you didn't, that there was audio video output or options out there originally when the TurboGrafx was originally on sale. They did offer that ability, especially if you were playing the TurboGrafx or the Turbo CD. Obviously you had to have audio video output, so obviously they modded it after that, which is pretty cool in my opinion. And again, just like with the other two that I just mentioned, you have to have the USB cord on you at all times, or else you're screwed. And of course you have to have an HDMI cable to make it work as well. And just like the other ones, you have 16:9 to 4:3 option as well. And these overall guys, these are great accessories, great alternatives if you don't want to spend money on those retro clone systems. These go for around 25 to 30 bucks. They're not going to break the bank for you, and they are worth it. They actually have two that I am still invested in as well. They have one for, of course, the Sega Dreamcast, and I'm definitely looking into getting one for that down the line, so I can play Sonic Adventure, the original one, in high def. And they also, believe it or not, have one for the Nintendo GameCube. Now, if you're wondering, if you're curious, no, you cannot use the Super Famicom Nintendo Level Hike HDMI accessory on the GameCube. It will not work. But they do have one for the GameCube, and they also have one for things like the Saturn and I think the Sega Genesis as well, the original Sega Genesis Mega Drive, if you will. They have that as well. So Level Hike has you covered, and again, it's not going to break your bank if you buy these to utilize with your old systems. Now, of course, moving on to the other retro systems that I have, of course, I got to start off with the Super Retrocade. This was something that was introduced to me by Re-Res, and Re-Res basically did a great job in selling me on this thing. But then it was Mad Little Pixel that really sold me on it, along with some other people as well that talked about this. And what sold me on it was not just the games that were included, but also the fact that you could add more games with various ROMs. Now here's the thing. Do all the ROMs work? Not necessarily. Sometimes, though, they do work. You have to have different copies of said ROM to make one work. For example, some of the ROMs I have on there are like Ninja Baseball Batman, WrestleFest, and the original '89 Turtles Arcade. But what you have to do is you have to have basically another copy of it from another region to, I guess, unlock the game itself so you can play it. Now, again, some games will not work even though they might show up. Like I have Nintendo World Championship on there. All I get is the logo screen. It will not work. But most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, most of the games do work on there, no matter how they were originally set up. So, you know, that's pretty cool, and I like that. I like the fact that you also are able to use different controllers most of the time for the system. Now, they do have one called the Maya Flash arcade stick, fight stick, that you can get that will allow you to play some of the original fighting games already installed on the system, as well as the ones you would install with a ROM, as if you were playing in an actual arcade. But right now, I don't have my hands on that. Yes, it does read my PXN fight stick, but it doesn't let me play. It reads it on the menu, but it doesn't let me play. I don't know why. But maybe I can figure that out in the future. But yes, the Super Retrocade, though, is is everything I would hope for. It does give you the option, as you see in the video, or as you saw in the video, it gave you the option for AV output or HDMI, as well as when it comes to the ROMs and even save files, it gives you the option of SD card. And as I discovered, and that people know originally here on my channel, it does give you the option to save with an SD card, as well as put ROMs on there with an SD card, as well as allow you to do it as well as it allows you to do it with a USB flash drive, because a USB flash drive actually gives you a lot more room to add more titles, and more room on a flash drive for ROMs equals more titles to be utilized, or you could install onto your Super Retrocade. Now the other one, of course, I got to talk about it, the Retron 77. The Retron 77 to me is one of my newer clone systems. It definitely is reminding me of the original Atari 2600, which me and my family had. We had that. We were basically ahead of the game when it came to all of our families, all of our relatives and cousins. So we had that. We were happy to have that. We had a variety of games. But over time, we ended up getting rid of it. I don't know why, unless it is packed away somewhere that I don't even know about. But yeah, we always played that game. And until the Nintendo came into our lives, that was our primary game system. And now that I have the Retron 77, I also have the ability to play some old games again, as well as install some ROMs as well if I feel like it. I have yet to utilize the firmware update supplied by the Atari Age community to allow me to have more Atari games on there, but I am going to physically be adding to the library real soon to test out some of the games that, you know, I can play on there. I mean, according to Metal Jesus Rocks, 99% of the time they will work, but there are some that won't. For example, Popeye, which I got, will not work. It's because it's got a chip in there. It's the same thing that Metal Jesus said about Pitfall 2. You know, so there are games that will work, but 95 to 99% of the time they will. I would say average 95% of the time, because there's going to be that 5% that doesn't. But it is fun to play. I even downloaded the AVGN Atari game that was developed, that he showed on his AVGN Games review several years back, and it works. It plays great. So can't say any more about the Retron 77, but I do recommend you get it. They even have a newer version out now in a red coloring, so check it out if you can. And the next one I want to talk about, of course, is the Nintendo. The Nintendo Classic, the NES Classic. Of course, a lot of people have tried to replicate this. Re-Res, of course, has talked about this with numerous replications by, you know, people out there. One being the Cool Baby, which, believe it or not, my older sister and her family have. They have the Cool Baby. She tried to justify it one time by saying it is legit, and I had to tell her, no, it's not. And I think finally, before me and my mom left that night, she did kind of acknowledge that, yeah, it's not officially licensed by Nintendo, but it has Nintendo games, and perhaps Nintendo does know about it, but they're just not saying anything. So anyway, the NES Classic, you know, like a lot of people, I had to wait till this was restocked to finally get it. And ever since then, I've enjoyed it. I've played it. I like it. You know, you can't get enough without, you know, when it comes to the system. It's really cool. Yes, there have been people that have found a way to mod it and all that, but to me, I like it just the way it is, because, you know, you can get hours and days of playtime out of this, no matter, you know, how many games are on there, pre-installed or what. Then, of course, Nintendo had to follow that up with the Super Nintendo, which the SNES Classic Edition, which I also did get. Thankfully, Nintendo learned a lesson, and they were able to supply enough for people to get, including myself, and I enjoyed it as well. Love the fact that we get, you know, so many games on there. Maybe not as much as the NES Classic, but just enough to, like I say, get enough to give you plenty of playtime, you know, for hours and days perhaps. And I really enjoy it. And I can't recommend it any more than I already am. If you have not gotten either one of these systems, I do recommend you try getting them because you will not regret it. Then, of course, last but not least, I got to talk about the Sega Genesis Mini. This one is one of the best systems out there, classic console-wise. It definitely gives you a peripheral of games on there. I love the way they design it to where you basically see the year of when it's released. You get to see, you know, the covers of the cartridges as if you're picking them out from a shelf. I like all that. The gameplay is great, and everything. It's got every game you could think of that was a Genesis Classic when the Genesis first came out. Licensed Genesis, Sega originals, you name it. Overall, I enjoy the system. And yes, the controller I showed you earlier during the Super Retrocade, that one right there, done by Retrobit, you can play that on the Genesis Mini as well, especially when it comes to, like, let's say, some of the fighting games that they offer. So anyway, though, guys, yeah, the Sega Genesis Mini, I highly recommend that one as well. The only one I don't have yet is the TurboGrafx Mini, but that's okay because of the fact that, as I showed you earlier, I have the TurboGrafx and I have the level high adapter, HDMI modified adapter to play the games in high def. So anyway, though, I just wanted to come on here and do a bit of a response to Metal Jesus Rocks video from earlier today. Hopefully, Metal Jesus, if you watch this, I'd like to hear what your thoughts are overall. Do you have maybe the flashback systems that I mentioned? And have you heard of the level hike accessories? And if you have you done videos on them, or will you ever talk about them? Let me know in a response, if you will. And that's all I'm going to say, guys. So till next time, take care. God bless. Comment down below. Comment in the live chat during the premiere. And I will talk to you later. God bless. Take care. I'm out.